Hello everybody, and I'm back with part 2 to my October wrap up. So I already spoke about the first 6 books that I read in, I think, immediately the video before this one. So I'm continuing on with the next 8 books, I want to say. Not sure at the minute if that's all I've read so far in total or if there's some more to come. So I guess keep out an eye for another part 3 or something. So I'm using my actual camera this time and my mic. I'm probably not going to do this all the time, but hopefully you enjoy the audio quality. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is Assassination Classroom Volume 5, Time to Show Off a Hidden Talent by Yusui Matsui. And this follows a group of students in the bottom class who has this task of defeating this alien that has blown up the moon. But the twist on this really is that the alien has now become their teacher, and he is tasking them with all the training to try and defeat him before the time is come for him to basically blow up Earth as well, which is such a strange concept, but it is so much fun. So simple thoughts for this one really. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars as usual. Always fun and easy to digest, but will they ever assassinate this guy? I think there's like 25 volumes or thereabouts of this, volume 5, and I'm thinking, geez, how can they drag this out anymore? Like, come on. I don't know if it's going to be the case where I get annoyed by it and I just stick on the anime and lob off reading the rest of the series, because if it's going to get to the point where it's like same old, I'm going to be like, that sucks. But I'm still enjoying it so far. I'm just wondering how long they can carry this on for, you know. Next, I picked up the first Stranger Things book by Gwenda Bond. This is Suspicious Minds, and we are following the story of Terry, who is Eleven's mum, and how she basically comes into this whole experimental science situation, what brought her there, what made her stay, what they did to her. And we do get the odd episode of her. I think in the first season we get like a flashback episode of Terry and kind of some of the atrocities that she went through within these experiments. But this story as a prequel kind of stands to deliver more of a fleshed out story for her, as well as friendships that she finds along the way, and kind of just personifies her more as a character that's honestly quite central to this whole thing, because if we didn't have her, we wouldn't have 11. Yes, we might have had other like super beamed characters created, which is obviously the case, but we wouldn't have this story following 11. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it was interesting to go back and see kind of like this imagined beginnings of her, shall we say. So it's set in the summer of 1969, and the shock of conflict reverberates through the youth of America, both at home and abroad. As a student at the quiet college campus in the heartland of Indiana, Terry Ives couldn't be further from the front lines of Vietnam or the protests in Washington. I ended up rating this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this was such a solid fleshing out of a time before we really get much of. As I say, we do get the odd one episode where it goes back and kind of shows you a little bit, but I really enjoyed seeing that deeper delve into the origin stories. I was really surprised to see the relationship dynamic that we had, like the friendships that Terry made along the way. I just wasn't expecting that, and I thought it was a great tool to add more humanity and to kind of raise the stakes of caring for these characters up just that bit more. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a great addition to the Stranger Things universe. Up next, I continued on my journey with the Magisterium books by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is book 3, The Bronze Key. So we are basically set in a magical school following a character called Callum and his 2 friends as they go about their lives trying to battle evil, as well as this inner evil that Callum fears that he has, and this kind of whole battle that he has between himself and his dad, who absolutely despises magic and says nothing good will come from it. So for book 3, The Bronze Key, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Many shocked moments were had with this book. It had so many twists and turns, and in comparison with my thoughts about the plot twists in the second book, this one definitely, like, a lot of the turns caught me off guard, and I really enjoyed that. I liked being kept guessing and not expecting things that was coming. Although I didn't mind the predictability in book 2, it didn't like hinder my enjoyment. It's always nice to kind of be caught off guard and be like, oh, I was not expecting that, and that's what the Bronze Key did. There was some really good character growth in here as well, especially with some of the side characters, particularly Jasper and Alex. And yeah, just overall I'm looking forward to seeing how everything kind of fleshes out further in book 4. So I finally finished up a book that I was on the book tour for Hear Our Voices, so thank you very much. I gave a list of songs, a playlist that this book was inspiring as I was reading, and this book is The Sign of the Slayer by Sharina Harris. It's described as Full Metal Alchemist meets Vampire Diaries. High school is supposed to be about studying, socialising and marching band practice, not fighting vampires. Then one night flipped my world inside out. Now my life sucks. But it isn't all bad. I'm at a Slayer Academy learning things like the real origin of vamps and how to make serious weapons out of thin air. Every last one of them will pay for what they did. I'm doing great. Until I come face to face with the actual vampire prince, and I'm not sure of anything anymore. Vampires are supposed to be soul-sucking demons, but Kamari is something else. He's intelligent and reasonable, and he seems to know things about me that could change everything. He's also hiding something big, even from his own kind. And when a threat from an ancient evil is so extreme that a vampire will team up with a slayer to take it down, it isn't just my need for revenge that's at stake anymore. It's the whole damn world. So overall, I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed being thrust into this world with Raven. I wouldn't say she was my favourite kind of main character to be around. She kind of irritated me at times. I wouldn't say she's unlikable, but for me she wasn't like my favourite kind of person, do you know what I mean? She wasn't my cup of tea, but I still enjoyed seeing the world through her eyes and kind of navigating this new world of the supernatural with her. I really liked the conversations on Egyptology and how that was woven throughout the storyline of vampires. I thought it was an interesting spin, unique take on vampire myth, legend and lore, but the Egyptology part was kind of brought in around 40% of the way through the book, and I feel like if it was to have any major stand-in, and it seemed like it was supposed to be quite a monumentous thing, I think it should have been brought in or introduced way earlier than the 40% mark, because you would have got so much more lore embedded in, and it would have felt, rather than being told how significant the findings were, you know. There were also quite a lot of times where I found it difficult to suspend my disbelief, particularly how our main character Raven just became so powerful and engrossed with this new way of life that previously, you know, her life was so fastly turned upside down and it's completely different to whatever she knew beforehand. And it just seemed like a month later she was fine and forgetting everything. Not forgetting necessarily, because she was fueled by this desire of revenge and justice, but it also felt like she'd rehabilitated too quickly to what made sense, you know. But I guess everyone deals with their own trauma differently, and that's maybe how she was working with it. I also thoroughly enjoyed the romance aspect of this. I just wasn't expecting to enjoy it an awful amount. I'm kind of slowly getting into romance, and there's been a few books recently, The Fall of Ruin and Wrath to name one, that I've gone in, and that's been like the main thing that I've really enjoyed. But, you know, seeing as it tends to be something that I don't typically pick up a story for, to say that that was a strong factor of enjoyment for me is a big thing. Yeah, overall this was a really solid start to a series. There was some pacing issues, some pitfalls that were a little bit irritating for me, but I would definitely pick up the sequel, and I am intrigued to seeing more about how this story develops. Okay, and then I've got a comic. This is Ice Cream Man by Maxwell Prince, and this is a series of like kind of interconnected mini short stories featuring one-shot tales of sorrow, wonder and redemption. Each installment features its own cast of strange characters dealing with their own special Sunday of suffering, and on the periphery of all of them, like the twinkling music of his colourful truck, is the Ice Cream Man, a weaver of stories, a purveyor of sweet treats, friend, foe, god, demon, the man who with the snap of his fingers lickety-split can can change the course of your life forever. So what did I rate this one? I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars overall. I thought all in all this was like a strange, unsettling little comic, which is just what I was in the mood for, to be honest. I probably would go ahead and read a few more volumes from it, but I don't see it as becoming like a new favourite. It was just, you know, kind of okay. It doesn't feel like there's a major plot that will, you know, continually string along to create a bigger picture. At least that's not how it feels right now, just from the first volume. So I wouldn't say I'm in a rush to get the next volume, and I probably wouldn't purchase it at full price. There was a particular chapter 3 or issue 3 that stood out to me about a one-hit wonder rock star who was having this like trippy dream about how he could be the only one to save the world with just one more song, and it was actually quite a sad ending. But yeah, I quite enjoyed that one. But yeah, as I say, overall 3 out of 5 stars. It was quirky, different, but it wasn't like absolutely outstanding. I can't see myself collecting all of these and keeping them in my collection, you know. Okay, so next up I have A Gift for a Ghost by Borja Gonzalez. This one is about an untalented punk band and a parallel dimension. So in this story we're following 2 parallel storylines that reflect and intertwine in a tale of youthful dreams and desires. We follow an 1856 storyline and a 2016 storyline. And in the 1856 one, we follow a young girl called Teresa, who is an aristocrat. She's more interested in writing horror, creepy poetry than making herself a suitable marriage situation. And then in the 2016 storyline, we're following 3 teenage girls, Gloria, Laura and Christina, who want to start a punk band called the Black Holes. They have everything they need: attitude, looks, instinct, and an alarming lack of musical talent. They've barely started rehearsing when strange things begin to happen. As their world and Teresa's intersect, they're haunted by the echo of something that happened 160 years ago. So this one was like a random buy. I remember picking it up in HMV. I think I was in the line already with something, maybe another book or something, and I saw this at the checkout too, and I was like, oh, let me try it. It was a haunting and strange little story, but sadly for me it's one that sort of lacked any real substance. I thought it could bloom into something beautiful, but it just didn't quite get there, and I don't know why. The artwork was really stunning. I just wished the story itself had more like lure to it, so because of that I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. And I don't know, it's one because it's very beautiful I'd like to keep, but I probably won't keep the space for this on my shelves, unfortunately, and I'm kind of gutted that I spent $17.99 on it full price. Okay, I think we're down to the last 2 books that I'm reviewing for this video, and the second to last one of that is Hungry Business by Maria de Blase. I read Weep Women Reap from this author, I think last month, and that was for a book tour. This one's also for a book tour. This is for the Tales of Terror book tour by Henry Roy PR. They sent me an e-copy for participation in the book tour, so thank you very much to them. It's a short story. It is a quirky little zombie apocalypse kind of story where our main character is looking for love. She's doing kind of like blind dating, but everyone is like dead pretty much, and she's trying to find a warm body to join her. So I quite enjoyed this one. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 stars in total, and I thought it was quite a quirky dark comedy that posed quite a lot of relatable topics for feeling lonely and isolated during an uncertain time. This one particularly, a zombie pandemic. I can imagine people might have felt similar during the COVID pandemic, and it's very poignant to me right now as I'm currently recovering from my second bout of COVID. So yeah, it was a good time for me to read it, I guess. But yeah, it definitely will resonate with a lot of people sans zombies, but overall I would say this was just a strange and bizarre, enjoyable little read. It was only like 17 pages, something like that. Okay, and the last book I'll talk about today is another audiobook that I listened to through my library service, and this is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. I think this is my first book that I've read by this author, although I do have a couple. I definitely have Grown, the physical book of that in my collection, and I think I have another one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. This, I would say, is definitely a Carrie retelling. I've never read Carrie, I've never seen any of the movies or readaptations or anything like that, but I've heard a lot of people say this is definitely like Carrie, bloody prom situation, but there's more to it, and I will read you the synopsis, the full synopsis, so you get more of an understanding. So in this horror, we tackle America's history and legacy of racism, following a biracial teenager as her Georgia high school hosts its first integrated prom. It's set in 2016, which is crazy that that's their first. Like, it's just, it feels so backwards. When Springville residents, at least the ones still alive, are questioned about what happened on prom night, they all have the same explanation: Maddie did it. An outcast at her small town Georgia high school, Madison, Washington, has always been a teasing target for bullies, and she's dealt with it because she has more pressing problems to manage, until the morning a surprise rainstorm reveals her most closely kept secret. Maddie is biracial. She has been passing for white her entire life at the behest of her fanatical white father, Thomas Washington. After a viral bullying video pulls back the curtain on Springville High's racist roots, student leaders come up with a plan to change their image, host the school's first integrated prom as a show of unity. The popular white class president convinces her black superstar quarterback boyfriend to ask Maddie to be his date, leaving Maddie wondering if it's possible to have a normal life. But some of her classmates aren't done with her yet, and what they don't know is that Maddie still has another secret, one that will cost them all of their lives. I rated this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was also a really nice touch and a surprise for me as well, because I hadn't heard this mentioned in reviews before, that it has a podcast style. I wasn't expecting it, and I've just found myself gravitating and really enjoying those kind of narrations, whether podcasts are kind of like a main theme within a story, or whether it actually is told as if you're listening to a podcast. So there's a few chapters where her story is being investigated on a podcast, true crime kind of talk show sort of thing, like a channel, and there are other chapters where you're actually living the lives with the characters and getting their perspective, their POVs, and I just really enjoyed that. It also reminded me of Anna Dressed in Blood, which is a book that I read last month for Amy McCaw's YA Book Club 2023. So yeah, I'm guessing now in the back of my head, maybe Anna Dressed in Blood has inspiration from Carrie. I don't know, I'm just kind of hypothesizing because that's what I do. But yeah, this was such a moving and distraught, heart-wrenching storyline, and you know, this young girl living under the cruelty of her father, the racist segregation town that she lives in, she just couldn't catch a break, and just when things were feeling kind of normal for her, more shit happened, and it was awful. She was learning so much and tackling so much on her own, and it must have been a really scary time, you know, imagining this character being in her boots, so to speak. It was just an absolutely fantastic character study and discussion of such deep-rooted hatred for, you know, the other, with some really amazing supernatural elements like spliced throughout it. Quite well done. So yeah, that's all I'm going to be talking about for today's video. Let me know if you've read any of these books yourself and what your thoughts were, and I shall catch you in another video soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.